Customers don't wait. A lot of you guys working, and you guys got working out right now with different companies. Okay,
Most of them are working.
good. That's good to hear. This is a great industry to be into. Let's see here. I've been working with low voltage contractors for 7 years now, and I started out. I used to work in a print shop as a pressman working third shift, and they sent our business out of the country, so they had to pay for my schooling. So decided I'm going to get into a trade. So I came to Dunwoody and did the electrical design construction management course. And in our second year, my boss, Bob Hirsch, president of our company, came in and spoke to our class about fire alarm systems. Previous to, also when I was working at the press shop, I was also a firefighter for many years for the city of Egan. So I've always been on the other side of the fire alarm systems. When they're going off, I know, how to silence them and look at the panels, but I've always been interested in what creates them, what tricks them. So came to school here, and he's sitting there talking about all the fire alarm system security, and it was very interesting to me. So during the break that we had, I went up and I asked him if they were hiring, and he goes, "Why don't you send me a resume?" And I had one printed off and handed it to him. And after 2 days, I didn't get a call back from him, so I called him. And he brought me in. He tells this story all the time, and he goes, just because I was so forward and eager and anxious, showed attention when he was speaking, asked questions, he brought me in and did a test, and I started a week later. And now I'm very happy where I am at. I'm with one of the best companies, I believe, for fire alarm systems. We're low voltage contractors. We handle in Minneapolis, the skyrise down here. Between fire, security, and service, we are in 90% of the buildings down here. So we have quite a large footprint. I travel. I do projects all throughout the Midwest. One thing we're currently looking into and going forward on is mass notification systems. And I'll get into that a little more with the NFPA 72. What I like about fire alarm systems is you basically have to be a master of all trades. When you're working with electrical, you have your NEC that you're dealing with. When you're working with a mechanical contractor, you have the mechanical code book. When you're doing elevators, you get the elevator code book. As a fire alarm contractor, we integrate with all of it. So we have to know electrical, we have to know mechanical, elevators, sprinklers, building automation systems. We have to know all the codes for all of them. We have to be experts on the codes. And so I spent a lot of time reading the codes, and you guys will too. And if we set ourselves up to, as a low voltage contractor, I make it that I'm the expert, so you guys don't have to be. If you're working in the electrical field, if you have a problem, if you need something, a lot of people will go to an engineer, but we also do our own engineering. So it's kind of makes ourselves, that step that you need. You have a problem, you call a VC. That's what we set up ourselves as. So getting into it in June, if everybody has read or anybody know NFPA 72 is the fire alarm code, but that is changing now. In June, they are adopting the 2010 version, which is changing it to the fire alarm handbook, or fire alarm and communication handbook. So it deals a lot with what we're getting into is mass notification systems, intelligibility. That's one of the biggest terms you'll hear nowadays is intelligibility. In the fire alarm industry, here we have horn strobes. When they're talking intelligibility, they're talking speaker strobes. So at end of the room, can you hear this intelligibly? Can you understand it? If you don't, then you have to have another speaker, and you have to place the speakers based on where are they going to be able to hear it. So, but we can, if anybody has any questions while we're talking, just feel free to jump up and throw your hand up, or just throw it out loud. I'll start with the paging system for the project. So we're looking at a telephone paging system throughout the buildings, and we'll start off in the main office area here. When you're talking paging systems, there's no real code to say how you are, what's required. This is what the owner wants, and you'll be going, you go out there and you design a system, all the bells and whistles, speakers all over the place, and they're going to come back to you and say, oh, we can't afford that. So you scale it back, but you let them know that, okay, we can do this, but you're not going to be able to hear it as well. It's not going to be able to function as well. So what I've used as a reference for paging systems is in each room that is closed off, unless it's going through the telephone system itself and they don't need it, because they have the handsets or the phone sets where it's going to come right through there, or it can go over the overhead. So I place speakers every 50 feet. That's just a general 50 feet is what they use. If you're looking at noisy spaces, you're going to reduce your space to about 30 feet. If you're depending on how high the ceilings are, if you have a drop ceiling, if you're going to use the re-entrant speakers, or if you're going to use just a cone type speaker in the ceiling. So in the office area here, what are we at for distance?
If you grab the mic over here. So I told him 20 on center though, so 30 on center for
Yeah.
noisy spaces, okay.
If for noisy spaces, yeah, 30 feet on center is going to get your intelligibility that you want. You're going to be able to reach everybody. They're going to be able to understand it, hear it. So, looking at a system like this, what are we going to do? It's about 25 feet.
Let's see that.
So I would start off by, when I'm doing the system, CAD and Revit is always a good thing to know. They still come to me for if our CAD guy is out, and I can do a little bit. Unfortunately, I'm quite rusty on it, but most of what I do is on paper. I still like to freehand draw, excuse me, on the paper. I always color code everything. There are guys in our office that just use one color. I like to color code it so I can show my customers, okay, when you're talking about speakers, it's going to have blue system. The blue systems, these are your paging speakers. If I'm talking fire alarm systems, it's always going to be in red. And so we're going to start with speakers. You're going to put speakers, you're going to have one, usually 15 feet from any corner of our entrance or exit, and you're going to go 30 feet from there, depending on the noise area. Let's look at stairs here, and we're going to come over here, roughly about 30 feet. And if you need one down here, you're getting close to, I would just put one in. Like I said, especially with the paging systems and the systems that are not required by code to have, the owners are going to come back to you and you're going to say, well, what if we take this out? What if we take this out? So I was over-engineered. I put in all the bells and whistles to begin with, and then I value engineered from there and fit within their budget. Out here in the manufacturing area, out here you're going to have high ceilings. So we're going to use re-entrant cone type speakers, which is just big loud blowhorn basically. And it's going to be tied into the system. You're going to have one here.
I'm sorry, Matt, you have to, that's all right. You have to put it back and pick it up again, yep.
Okay.
Every time I change it, yep, thank you.
Not a problem. So I would start off going one. We're looking at loud space out here, so we're going to reduce it. I would put 3 down in this area. And those are going to project up this way. So what you want to do is you're going to put more over here that are going to project here. You're going to have everything covered. Your goal is to make sure that anybody anywhere in this area can hear and fulfill the needs of the customer. That's the main thing Yeah, so you're talking to the customer, and you go, where do you want, you know? Now, if they come in and they say, okay, well, we don't have many people down this line, or it's only, okay, well, only put one down there. But the main thing is you want to cover this area so that they can hear, or if not hear, they can hear something and be able to get to the speaker. Same thing in the data center as is in the main office area. You're going to have your drop ceiling, so you're going to space your speakers out there the same.
Have to put them out.
Let's start with one here, and probably 3 in there would cover it.
Are you using these to augment or replace the fire alarms?
It depends on what the system, depends on what the fire alarm, what the owner wants. If this is get into it, but if this is a building that requires voice evacuation, fire alarm code states that you cannot use a paging system because this is an unsupervised system as your fire alarm notification, but you can put fire alarm speaker strobes in and you can page over the fire alarm speakers. That's one way you can reduce.
So there's some double paging.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you can do live paging through a remote mic, or there's a telephone, you dial in and then you can page different areas. And that all depends on the system that's going in there. A building like this, in a building like this is a B occupancy, fully sprinkled, so really no fire alarm system is required, except for you're going to have smoke detectors for elevator recall, duct detectors for any air handling units over 2,000 CFM, and you're going to have flow and tamper, monitoring of the flow and tamper. Now that's not saying that that's all you're going to put in here, but that's minimum code requirement. Their insurance company may require them to have a full-blown fire alarm system. They may want a fire alarm system for, like, so they can get a reduced insurance rate, just for notification of their faculty or whoever's working. So it's all it all depends on what the owner wants. You're going to be talking a lot with the owner and dealing a lot with them. So, but paging system. Let's see, did I miss anywhere else?
I think they need the mechanical, if I remember right. These are the mechanical room. We probably will throw one here and one here in these mechanical rooms.
Yep. Just you're going to cover one in each room in areas like that, just to, if you're going to have a janitor's area over here where their desk offices are going to be, you want one over there. Really, if there's all 3 air handling units going on in there, the chances that they're going to hear it are minimal. So you want to put it by places where they're going to be. If they're not working on the units, they're going to be, okay, they got a desk over here, put it over by there. That's just the main goal, is to, I guess, alert people and make sure that they can hear it as much as they can without overbearing them.
Matt, do you have a criteria for spacing the horn speakers? Like the ceiling speakers are 30 on center. The horn speakers, like on center, 30, 25, and how far they project?
In a corridor,
Yeah.
you can have horn strobes.
You talk about horn for the speakers.
Oh, the
Speaker
the
horns.
re-entrant horns.
For the
phone
paging
speakers?
system.
Yep, paging system. Okay. Those are the same thing. You're looking in open space. You're looking at about 50 feet. Those are going to be higher watt, tapped higher. You're going to be able to project more. You don't want to overdo it. You know, you can probably go up to about 65 feet, but at that point you're losing intelligibility.
Okay.
So typically it's just used about the same as fire alarm system. So in an open office area, on a fire alarm system, you can go 50 feet between. They go different depending on, these are all for strobe coverage, but the notification coverage is, we use typically in a corridor, I go 85 feet, but in a open space you're doing 50 feet. So.
What type of technology you use for far as line voltage, balanced versus unbalanced, powered speakers versus unpowered speakers?
Yeah, that's a good question. When it comes to that, I'm really not an expert on that type system. Basically, what you're looking at is line voltage speakers coming straight from the system. Out at whatever system you get, they usually have the best compatibility speakers that they have. You're going to look at Atlas Sound are pretty good speakers out there. For paging systems, they all have all the interface right now. You got Bogan, you got I don't know what are the other ones. TOA, Qualm, those are the ones I've been using. So, and basically, I just say, here's what they need, and I'll send it to the distributor, and they'll provide me with all the head end and say, here are the speakers you're gonna want, here are the amplifiers, and like I said, I always over design it, so they can come back and say, you know, okay, let's get rid of these.
Is it common with paging systems with restrooms as well, or not so much?
Typically not, but you'll put them right outside the door so they'll be able to hear something. But yeah, typically the restrooms, the only thing you're doing there is strobe notification for ADA compliance. So, what else? Anybody else has any questions about the paging system? You're going to have it, you're going to provide your head end system in the electrical room. Probably going to be tied right into your DMARC for your phone system. You're going to bring over one phone line to have the modules, everything there. You can split it up depending on, you can have it all page, or you can have split it up into different zones based on the system that you provide for them. Typically, I like to do zone systems because really in a system like this, nobody wants to just page everybody. If they can get to the office, page the office, there's where they're going to be.
You sequence use of talkback system, which is chains and everything?
Typically not. I haven't done anything with a talkback system. Because most of the time it's like in the manufacturing area, they're just saying, yeah, so and so call one, call this phone, whatever.
Well, some wireless stuff, right, from that,
Yeah, it was. I'm not really a big fan of wireless paging right now because, as in all of the systems I try to do, there's at least some redundancy when you're wiring them. The wireless, it's going out, you're not going to know about it unless you put a monitor module or resistor on it that it's constantly talking back to each other, that they're knowing that it's there, but still you're looking at greater increases in cost, and that's not what the owners are wanting. So, at least in my experience, that's not what they want. Alright, clock system. Clock system, this is an easy one. This is a wireless system, and you can get them pretty much anywhere. There are a bunch of distributors out there that specialize in them, and all you're going to have is in your main electrical room, you're going to have your transceiver with an antenna going up to the roof, and you're going to place your clocks on the walls. All it is drill a screw, drill an anchor, hang it, and you're done. Battery backup. Tell the owner, okay, here, change the batteries once a year. They'll have their own maintenance people do that. You can do the digital, or you can do the, looks like we got 15-inch clocks in the manufacturing area. And like I said, I would do one on each wall to just, so anywhere they're looking, they can be able to see it. In the office area, maybe one, because everybody else is going to have their phones or their computers. So you're going to sit there and you're going to, okay, I don't remember. Oh, they do have one in here. Last time I looked at a regular clock and people ask me what time it is, it's either pull up the cell phone or I don't even carry a watch anymore. And you're going to do the same thing in the, it depends on where, one in the data center, in the air handling unit or mechanical room. I don't know that they'll actually want one in there or need one. because there's nobody gonna be in there looking at the time going, yeah. They're gonna be going in there working on the air handling unit. Oh, time to punch out. You know, they're gonna do what they gotta do. Up in the lab area, lunchrooms, common areas are good places to have them. But
On the second floor.
second floor conference rooms. You know, whether you have them on the wall, they might go for a more decorative one if they want, just because it depends on how they set up the conference rooms.
They have a lunchroom here too.
Lunchroom, okay. And then
For
probably,
lab here, this is a lab with benches probably.
Yeah. and I would just put one up in here, maybe two if they ask for it. But again, there's no code saying you have to have this many, so it's all about what the owner wants. With a lot of these systems that are not code driven, it's talking with the owner, finding out what they want. It's kind of like an interview. You're sitting and asking them, well, okay, well, or you say, instead of asking them, you come to them with a solution. You're looking at it best practice, what you normally do. If we want to, let's jump right into the security system.
Second.
Let's go here. Since we're talking about fulfilling the owner's needs, looking at a building like this, you know, you want to look at the location of the building, what the crime rate is, you know, what do they want to protect. If you're looking at cameras or just motion detectors and door contacts, right? Okay.
If you see, they have the windows in the second floor, not the first floor, I believe.
Okay.
They have
Couple
actually
down
windows
here.
up in the second floor.
Oh, that's cool.
I'll get you back to the view here.
These are systems I didn't really have, but we are seeing a lot nowadays where everybody in the industry, when you're building a fire alarm system, you're doing your own modeling beforehand, so you're dealing with the 3D, the Revit, and everything. So we have to submit our plans to them, and they have everything laid out. It is cool to look at it, but way over my head. We started off with AutoCAD when we were here, so it was pretty much 2005 version. So on the first floor here, in the main office area, this is where most of your security system is going to go. And looks like in the data center here and in the main office is where all the outdoor windows are. So you're going to put glass break sensors in here. They're just little devices kind of similar to this here, and it just monitors for noise, glass break noise. So you're just going to put in here. And since we got two here, we're going to set one in the middle. Usually you're looking, I think, 15 feet on each side. It's usually where it comes, where it can register. So, and I think that just about covers the glass breaks. If they want to have one in the main atrium area, they can. But you're also going to have, in this area, you're going to have your door contacts. The door contacts are going to go at each door exiting the building. And that's just a little magnetic piece that sits up there, monitored by the security system you're going to put in your electrical room. And again, here you're going to have door contacts on each exiting door. Up in the front area. And depending on if they want to know if someone's going into a certain room or if it's on a card reader, they're going to put door contacts, say, going into the data center, door contacts going into the hazard area. If they want to control who goes into these rooms, they're going to put card readers on these doors, and it's just a magnetic strip, and it's programmed in. You can actually do biometrics now, so it's quite, security is very interesting.
Spring belt contacts and that.
Let's see what else we got on the security system. Motion detectors. Those are going to be programmed into the security system. Usually, they're for after hours. They're on a timer basis, and you're going to have those basically in the main exit areas. The main egress path. We're good.
Yeah, we're good.
You're going to put those in the main path of egress. You're going to have one coming up from the main door here. You're going to want one in the mechanical area. And, you know, back here you're going to know if, I guess, if someone's breaking in, but, and it's probably going to be tied into your lights. If someone does come in after hours, you can have it programmed so the card reader goes on, those lights open up, or, you know, someone breaks in, the lights are going to come on, so. Let's see.
Maybe in the data area.
You know, typically the data center area is going to be one of the most secure areas in the building. So if they were to get in there, you're going to know about it because you're going to have your glass breaks. You're going to have your card reader. If they force the door open on the card reader, it's all going to come back. The security panel is not typically tied into a dialer system. It is, however, tied into, it's not a communication system where it'll dial the building manager. It's not necessarily going to dial the fire department or police. I guess it all depends. Everything is web-based now. So if you're the building manager, glass break goes off, it's sending a text message to your phone, and it's sending, and you can just go on your phone. If you have a smartphone, they can bring it up. If there's security cameras in there, they can open up the security cameras and look at it. They can call 911, or sometimes it is tied into the fire alarm system where certain events, like say a break into the data center, we're monitoring that alarm contact, that's going to send the police. But again, that all depends on what the owner wants. Security systems, how secure do they want it to be? That's one of the main questions you want to ask them is, what are you looking at? If you're going to put cameras in there, you're going to talk to them about putting cameras in there. What are you going to protect? Are you going to protect the cars out here in the parking lot area? Are you going to protect the data center? Do you want to protect the machine? Do you want to see if someone's stealing something from the vending machines? You know, there's all sorts of hidden cameras all over the place. And you can put them wherever you want. They have them. We've been requested to do smoke detectors that are hidden cameras, but we will not do those because it gives you a false sense of security. If you see a smoke detector outside of a bathroom or outside of a lunchroom, people are going to think, okay, well, there's a fire alarm system here. Not necessarily the case. False sense of security, we don't like to do that. But there's plenty of other things you can do. A speaker or horn strobe like that can have a hidden camera in it. You know, they'll do the pencil sharpener. They have those. So it's kind of interesting what you can provide for them.
And if we say anything about the second floor too here.
Second floor, your motion detectors are going to be in the main stairwells. So you're looking at, because they're going to come in through here. These are the ways that they have to get into the building if they're going to go up to the second level. Whether they have a roof hatch or not, that's all depends. You can put a door contact on the roof hatch in case anybody gets up there and tries to enter through there. Typically, most of the time they're going to be locked from the inside, but again, that's up to the owner to see what he wants. And areas like this, you know, your security cameras, if you're putting cameras, you're going to mount them in the corners, laying down, whether you do a pan tilt zoom camera or a standard camera, day-night camera. And that's all. You just basically, you talk to the owner, And you say, okay, instead of, you bring it to the owner and say, here's what our design is, and here's our price. Obviously, they're, most of the time, I'd say 90% of the time, they're gonna balk at it and say, well, we can't. So then you start scaling it down and say, okay, well, here, this is the full-blown, this is the Cadillac version. Well, let's go down to the, Prius,
Suzuki.
go down to the Suzuki, and, you know what, if that's what they want, that's what they want. And they can add more as they go, but at least they have a budget area, they know price.
Does your firm, supply monitoring services, or is it?
We do. Yep. Yeah, we go through Silent Night. Well, actually, we have Silent Night, Trans Alarm, and U.S. Central Security, or U.S. Central Monitoring. We have 3 different accounts that we do.
You don't do that yourself, do you?
No, we don't have an in-house monitoring service. We are a sales for. We cover the service, but
You know, we have one of these here too, if you want to show it to us.
hold on.
Fire alarm as you going through.
Okay. We are a UL listed company, and most places, if it's a UL city, Golden Valley, Burnsville, Edina, Shakopee, there's about 14 different cities that are all UL cities that you have to have. Your monitoring has to be. You have to keep up all the documentation. You have to test it. Everything has to be submitted to the city yearly. Otherwise, there's quite large fines, and we hold the UL certificates for those systems. You're gonna have your main keypad is basically your security system is gonna have a keypad similar to this. You guys have seen this, where everything is programmed in right here, or it can be computer uploaded through a computer. But you're also gonna have a remote keypad in the front entrance, so anybody comes in the morning, first person in, whether they use key card or if they just type it in. You've seen all those. They're, the ADT type systems. Just a real keypad, punch in a code. Okay, alarm system's off. End of the night, they don't have it on a timer. Last person to leave, punches the code, system's on. I think that's about it for security, unless anybody has any questions on the security.
So, where would the security keypad, would it be on the exterior of the building? Because there's kind of an entrance for circulation.
Typically, what I've seen is that it's going to be on the inside of the atrium. The outdoors are going to be open, and the main doors are the ones going to be locked. So you're going to put it right next to the door. Usually there's a sign at the front entrance saying this is monitored by our security system. Typically when people see that the lights are on in there, they see a keypad, they're going to shy away from it. If it's a high trouble area where you got, I won't say I've seen it, but you got open door like that, bums come in and they'll sleep in there. We've dealt with that before. So they will put a weatherproof one out here, or at least a key code with a key to get in to the store. And depending on how much trouble they have, they'll lock all these doors and put your keypad up here, say in the shipping receiving area or mechanical area. The building manager is usually going to be the first one in, or they're going to go to a full-blown card access system.
Does your firm do suppression systems as well?
We do not. We have a sister company, GM Johnson, who handles that. And actually, very interesting story. We bought the owner of our company bought J.N. Johnson 28 years ago, and the company has been around so long. We have license number 1 in Minneapolis. So the company has actually been around for over 100 years. So, but we've owned it and transformed it. It was originally just extinguishers, and now it's suppression systems. Low voltage contractors started off as just being an installer for the suppression systems, and then we grew and took over and became fire alarm. Now we're the big sister to our sister company, my big brother. So no longer owned by the same gentleman. He sold off the company to his son, but we're still housed in the same building. Other questions on security clocks or paging?
Man, typically they're 24-volt system and class 2 circuits, right? And
Yeah.
most of these are class 2 with 24 volts.
Yeah.
So low, what we call low voltage systems.
Yeah, this is going to be the door contacts. You're going to have power going to the door locks. The door locks are usually provided by the door hardware contractor. And you're going to have card readers, or your request to exits are all going to be tied in 24 volts to drop the relay of those locks.
And do you guys have like a PDF of a security system already designed to the Cadillac version, so we can probably share it in the network so the students can see how to interface the cameras and all this stuff?
Yeah.
If you have a PDF, we shoot it our way. We can put it in the network so we can see, because what we do right now is really the bare minimum, and it's really nice to see cameras everywhere with a LiSA that connects all of them, plus the location. So if you can shoot us a PDF, that would be great.
Does your firm do the wiring or?
We do wiring. Yeah. If we do full install, everything. So.
And the same thing for the fire alarm would be really great. Just a full designed fire alarm system and with a riser, that's really good. Because we do it, we focus mainly in the light and the power, if you're being electrical, engineering firms and so forth. It's really nice to see go into the discipline.
Yeah, I can certainly do that.
Thank you.
And when you're talking about the low voltage systems, we are, we're the last thought usually. You got the general contractor, typically, who's got the big project. The electrical contractor is 10% of their scope. We're 10% of the electrical contractor scope. So, unfortunately, it happens all the time, but we are the last thought. And when the projects are going on, it's, oh, hey, can I get this by tomorrow? 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm getting a call. But we do it because we depend on electrical contractors just as they depend on us to get everything done and up and running. But a lot of the systems out there, I know the project's going on, so I'm already working on it. But it's not all the time. The contractors sometimes will give me a week to do it, 2 days. So let's jump into fire alarm system. Actually, do you mind if we take a break on these?
Okay, shall we? It's a good idea. Thank you. Take a break, guys. Thank you. We're good?
All right. Well, nobody's has any questions on it. Let's jump right into the fire alarm system. This is fire alarm system is what brought me into the industry. It's my passion. Is what I love to do. The other stuff is, it's always good to know. You learn everything. Just about enough of everything to be dangerous. But this is my bread and butter. This is what I love to do. So, the reason I guess I'm getting into fire alarm, I got into fire alarm systems because when I was a firefighter, I was always convinced with life safety, and this is exactly what fire alarms do. Let's jump into it. All right, B occupancy fully sprinkled according to Minnesota State Fire Code, the 2007 version, which is what we're currently on. To be occupancy fully sprinkled, no fire alarm system is required, except for monitoring of the fire alarm system or of the sprinklers, flows and tampers. You're going to have duct smoke detectors in the return side of the air handling units, or anything above 2,000 CFM.
That will be here.
So we have how many?
There are 3 air handling units in this area.
3 air handling units.
Let me draw them this way. Just here's one here, and one here, and one here.
NFPA 72 is where you're going to find your typical symbols units. If you're looking at a duct smoke detector. You're gonna have it on the return side. When I talked about knowing the codes, depends on which fire marshal you're talking to, but the fire alarm, the fire alarm code says that the duct smoke detectors are going to be on the return side of any air handling unit with 2,000 CFM or more. The mechanical code says it's going to be on the supply side. So there's always contradictions in the code, but the fire marshals, they always take the fire code because it's typically more stringent when it comes to fire alarm systems. So we got our duct smoke detectors on the air handling units. Those are going to come in as a supervisory alarm. They're not alarmed anymore. They're just going to shut down the units in case there's smoke, so it doesn't prevent them from recirculating smoke throughout the building. The reason that they're supervisory is because really by the time the smoke gets to there, you're either going to have a real smoke detector or sprinklers going off, or they're just faulty and there's dust or something. So they don't want the alarms. They don't want the fire trucks rolling every time. We hear that all the time. But so these are going to report as supervisory. It's going to go off to the central station. The central station is going to call the maintenance contractor, building contractor, or building manager, and say, hey, duct smoke detector and whatever, so such and such is going off, and they'll go, okay, we'll deal with it in the morning. Unless it comes to a full-blown alarm, which you'll see in the sprinklers. The reason that the fire alarm system has been they've been taking more and more away from what's required by the fire alarm system is because the sprinkler systems they're finding can react. Sprinkler system is not meant to put out a fire. It's meant to contain a fire for people to get out till the fire department gets there. So you'll see a lot of the times people say, oh yeah, you know, the sprinklers will put it out. They won't. If you ever seen a sprinkler actually go off, it's not like in the movies. It's, you know, the sprinklers in here? Doesn't click it, but if this head goes off, this one's going to go. If that head goes off, that one's going to go. If this head goes off, this whole building is not going to go. That's just a movie. But typically, we're monitoring the flow and the tampers for each zone of the sprinkler system. We're probably going to have. Yep.
So we're going to assume they're going to be in this area here.
Yeah, typically they're going to come in out here. You're going to have your OS and Y valve, which is where the fire department connection hooks up to. Excuse me, when the trucks get there, they're going to connect up to the pipes here and run their own pipes, their own water through the system. Up to the stand pipes, or so your sprinkler, you're probably going to come in, probably in the corner there. That's where you're going to have, depending on how big the system is, you're going to have probably 3 flows and 2 tankers. Does it say? Okay, so we got 4 zones. Looks like. So we're going to have a flow and a tamper per zone.
So
Except
4
for
of each. So 4 of each. 1 for each
well,
zone.
yeah, you're going to have 1 for each zone, but you're going to have more for zone 2 here, which is the computer room pre-action panel. And that is a dry pipe system, so you're going to monitor high and low air on it as well. And those will come in as
Do we
alarm
typically
points.
put them inside the computer room?
It depends where the pre-action panel is.
Okay.
If they're just going right over here by the pipes, then they're running the pipes over here. Or if they're going to put the pipes, we can zoom over into this area. Yeah, looks like this might be a mechanical area. Is this a mechanical?
This one is the UPS area.
UPS area.
UPS on the batteries.
Right, so this might be where they're going to put their pre-action panel and start their dry pipe system from. They're going to have a air compressor in there, and you're just going to monitor the flow, tamper, and high and low air on that one system. Because if there's low air in the system, water's going to shoot through, and especially in this computer system, data rooms, the worst thing for them is water. So what the dry pipe system does is it's compressed with air, so we have time that if the head goes off, there's air shooting through. We're monitoring the air, it can shut everything down in there so it doesn't affect them, so it doesn't kill all the computer systems. If they're looking at chemical agent system, a lot of them will do that as well, depending on what they need in here, or what they have, what equipment they have. If they want to survivability of it, they're going to use a chemical reaction system, which is going to be the same. Everything's going to be, fire alarm system's going to be cross zone, but that's a separate system if it's a chemical releasing system, chemical agent system. Oops, there. So there they're talking about the reaction. So when you're talking about the reaction system in the data center, what they say when they're talking about cross-zoning systems is you're going to have, say, five smoke detectors, and you're going to have two zones going in here. So you're going to have right here, that's going to your control panel. It's going to be circuit number 1. And then these two are going to go onto a separate circuit. This is going to be circuit number 2. So what happens is, if one of these detectors goes off, it's not going to go into alarm. It may go into pre-alarm and give the building an indication that, okay, one of the smoke detectors went off. But this water and everything is not going to release until a second smoke detector on a separate zone is going to go off. So if both of these zones go off, shuts down all the devices and releases the air in the system, lets the water go through, put everything out. You see these a lot now in the cross zoning, but what is a big push lately and more popular is a VESDA system. And this VESDA is a very early air sampling detection system, or detection apparatus. And basically you're running, instead of all these wires and detectors, you got a panel here. You're going to put in here, and you're going to have a pipe that comes up. It's like a 3D X-ray thing. Comes up, goes down here, and you're going to have a second pipe that comes down here. And you just have sampling holes, as you would a smoke detector. And you can cross on them this way, but it's just basically an orange pipe with little holes in it. That you have that page, I can draw something.
The page that we did.
Yeah, that blank page.
Oh. Yes. Oh, the
That's
just
it.
gotcha. Whiteboard.
Whiteboard, yeah.
Give me a second here. Good.
Right. So typically in a data center, you're going to have so this is your room. You have your drop ceiling here. You're going to have your raised floor. And a data center, NFPA 75 tells us that we have to have detection above the drop ceiling, in the drop ceiling, and below the raised floor. So you're going to actually end up with quite a few systems in here if you do because if you're looking at cross-zoning everything. So you're going to have your VESDA system with the exhaust going into the same space, but you're probably going to mount it outside into different, this is a mechanical room over here, or a battery room, wherever we're going. So we got the pipes running up here, sampling up here. Depending on the CFM, or how much air is being forced through here, if you have crack units, you have to reduce the spacing of the detectors. Your detector spacing is 900 square feet. And when you get to NFPA 72 reduces it, if you go on is it, 60 exchanges a minute. Then you reduce it to roughly, so 30 feet on center typically, reducing it to 9 feet. So every 9 feet you have to have a smoke detector. So we're cross zoning this. We're going to have another, so we got one pipe. This is a 4-pipe system. It's a 4-pipe system. They're all, each pipe is a separate zone in the system. So we're going to have one pipe that's coming up in here. We're going to have our second pipe coming up here. And that's going to be going down into the drop ceiling. So we're going to monitor in the room. And you can cross zone them, so you can have 2 pipes going each way, so they're cross zoned. So we're going to have, so up in here, these are, so you got 2 pipes here, because the room is longer. And those are going to be cross zoned with each other. Now we're going to have a separate system. You can either put it next to it, or over here. And you're going to have coming under here under the raised floor. Again, depending on how much air is being circulated through, and you're going to have 2 pipes going down because they're going to be cross zoned. So this is your, this is as a VESDA system. If you're not doing VESDA, you're looking at smoke detectors. Basically, you're running the wiring the same, the pipe is the same, and each of these sampling points is a smoke detector instead. And you're going to have 2 circuits. You're going to have above the drop ceiling, in the ceiling, and then below the raised floor. A lot of people, the customers will sit there and say, well, you can get away with that. You don't have to have them if there's nothing combustible down there. Well, okay. We go everything in conduit down there? They go, yep. And we'll be looking through there, and I'll look down, and you got a computer plugged in right there, yeah? See that cord going down into the floor? Is that combustible? They go, yep, gotta have it. Fire marshal will do the exact same thing. These are a pain to test and get under and do any service. NFPA says you can mount them so that the smoke detector is sideways or underneath, but it becomes very difficult because everything in here has to be in pipe.
Matt, space-wise, like NFPA would say is what, 30 by 30, you put one smoke detector at the top, but at the bottom, do we cut the distance by half, or do we put them on the raised floor?
It's the same. You're starting at 30 by 30, every 30 feet on center.
Yep.
But depending on the air movement is when you have to reduce your spacing. I don't have the NFPA 72 with me to show, but it says based on the amount of air exchanges per hour, that's how you have to reduce your detector. It gives you derating factors in there. So
What we have done in the past is we put at the top the 30 by 30, and at the bottom we say cut it by half, because we don't know the air exchange, just as a rule of thumb. So we place the bottom ones at 7.5 on center. All these smoke detectors under the raised floor at 7.5. I'm sorry, 15 on center. 15 on center. So that we call it a day. Unless we know otherwise. I mean.
Which is fine if you don't know with a lot of this. When dealing with fire alarm systems in the data centers, there's a lot we don't know. I mean, that's standard. So we're dealing with as much as we can, and we're gonna, overkill it. And then when they get the information, then we come back and value engineer it back. A lot of the times you'll see the smoke detectors designed in there, and we'll come in and say, well, instead of having all these smoke detectors, all this pipe, we can put in the VESDA system for cheaper because it's our system, one pipe, and it's just plastic PVC pipe. So.
Now, if the alarm system is not required because it has sprinklers, do you still have to follow all the rules and pass all the inspections that was required?
Yeah.
So if you put one in, then it has to be kosher.
Yes, if you put one in, it has to be installed to code. Yep. That's really good question. The code is a minimum, and any different jurisdictions throughout any different city, the fire marshals, they can have their own sets of standards. We see that quite a bit. In Burnsville, it's a UL city, who would say, be occupancy, nothing for fire. And they come back and say, nope, you have to put a full fire alarm system in here, which we have dealt with quite a bit. But, and so we put in the full fire alarm system, design it to code as if it weren't sprinkled.
So this jurisdictional authority is based on municipality.
Yep.
Not state, not county.
Yep. And when it comes to fire alarms, the authority having jurisdiction has final say. So the fire marshals is a good person to get to know. We have a very good relationship. I have a very good relationship with almost all the fire marshals throughout the state because I've dealt with them.
You guys buy them donuts?
No,
Cops, they do the
typically, what the fire marshals hate to see, and they tell us this all the time, is you don't want to call them up and say, yeah, so what's required? They'll look at you and say, hey, it's not my job to design this.
Exactly.
What we do is I go to them and say, okay, here's what I'm putting in, here's what I'm thinking, here's why I'm doing it. What are your thoughts? Or do you have any other standards that I'm missing that need to be incorporated into this? And most of them will just say, no, it's code. Or they'll say, yeah, we have this, stipulation that you gotta have, what. So, and they'll tell me, and I'll put it in. One example of that is Minnesota State Statute 299F is residential CO smoke detectors. Says that in any residential occupancy now, you have to have CO smoke detectors in each room within 15 feet of, and in each pathway as an egress out of that room. There are exemptions from that where, say, if they don't have any CO producing elements in the rooms, but they have a boiler room and a locker room, then you can just put those, as long as they are monitored off-site, you can just put one in those areas. So, and each fire marshal interprets every code differently, so it's all about learning how they do it. It can be tiring at times. Sometimes you're trying to remember. You'll design a system to one fire marshal, and then you forget it was the other one that does it. So, but they'll most of the time they'll let you know, and the fire marshals will sit there and they'll tell me, oh, you must have been dealing with so and so.
And then you also have the electrical inspection.
Yep.
For the wiring to do.
Yep. Typically, the fire marshal will do the inspection, all of our testing and inspections. So when it comes to electrical, when we have our rough-in and everything in, they'll just wait till the end because it's a low voltage system typically, 24 volts. So they don't, they don't need to see that everything is, there's no loose, wire nuts are all the same in conduit and junction boxes and everything. As a standard, what our company has done is we do not use wire nuts. We have terminal strips. We put in a big junction box and we use the terminal strips and everything. All our wire is color coded to a certain standard that we have. Strobe is green stripe. Your data loop is going to be just red. Your speakers are going to be blue stripe. Power is yellow. And we let the billing owner know so that when it comes to service, if they got something going on, they can go to the panels where we have our terminal strips and say, okay, and do our testing right up here. These are strobe circuits. And you see a lot of customers want that now.
Gauge wire you typically use.
14, 18.2 for data, 16 for speakers. So, and it's all FPLP wire, fire rated wire. Okay, so we talked about flows and tampers, so let's talk about what else is required. Got an elevator here. So we're going to have to put smoke detection in each elevator, in each lobby. Depending if they have a damper up on top, used to have smoke detector up on top. typically that's not required. You're gonna have a smoke detector in the elevator machine room, which I assume
That's a machine.
elevator machine room here. You're also gonna have 4 relay modules. The relay modules are your primary, secondary capture, your firefighter helmet, and your shunt trip. The shunt trip is going to turn off the electrical system in case there's water coming in there. You got your primary recall. So if there's a fire here, the system knows that, okay, there's a fire out here, this smoke detector is sensing it. It's not going to open up the doors in this level, it's going to go to the alternate level, the secondary level, and open up there for egress. And the firefighter helmet, there's a light on. It just turns, all it does is activates a light saying this cap is about to be shut down. Unless the firefighters come in with their key and then they can control it. So you're going to have that on the first floor. On the second floor, you're going to have another one. And these are all going back. And there's going to be another S fire smoke detector. Back onto the first floor here. The main control panel room. And the electrical room is where you're going to have your main panel, and you're going to have a smoke detector above the panel. It used to be you have to have a smoke detector and a manual pull station. Manual pull stations are pretty much going away with. They're just a nuisance for a lot of people to trip, and with the sensitivity of the detectors now, and the technology that they have, your smoke detector is going to go off most likely before a pull station.
What controls the sprinkler flow? Is that still mechanical?
Yep, just a flapper valve. And it's just, the pressure of the water is where it's going to, once the system's filled up, that's going to remain stagnant. We're monitoring that contact, that motion. And as soon as that water starts getting released, that flapper valve's going to go off. Or it's a twist valve if it starts spinning. And we can go. Your tamper switches that you're going to notice, that you're going to be monitoring, those are the big turn wheels to turn the system on and off. Because you want to make sure that the system is always on. If someone comes up and starts messing around and turning off your sprinkler system, and then all of a sudden something happens, it's a big liability. Typically you'll see them chain lock. The only people that are allowed to turn off the sprinkler systems are the fire department, and that's for the sprinkler contractor when they're doing service on it. So, going back on the fire alarm system, you're going to have at the main firefighter entrance, whether it be the front or the back here, you're going to have a Knox box outside, which is just a red box that the fire department has a key to, and they can open up, and it's got the keys to every door in the building.
Somewhere.
That's just going to be a Knox box. Over by the
And the Siamese, right?
Yep.
If it needs some.
If your Siamese connection there, you're going to have a horn strobe out there. But typically, the horn strobe is going to be tied into the sprinkler system. It's going to be a 120 volt system. That's going to be a 120 volt horn strobe. We usually don't provide that. It's either the sprinkler contractor, because that's going to be tied right into the flow switches. So if that's going off, it starts beeping, letting the fire department know, here's where you're going. Now, typically, as I said, it's a B occupancy, nothing else will be required. However, for the safe, if this project or say it's insurance purposes, they're going to want notification devices throughout. Well, then the question comes up: do they want a voice system? Do they want a horn strobe system? Is it, it depends. Are they going to use their voice system as their paging system? That's an option. It depends on what they want. So I'm trying to remember if they. They call it for a voice system.
I think we needed horn strobes all over.
And the horn strobe on the Siamese connection. So basically it just says what you'll see is a lot of people in the who write the specs, they'll put in provide a complete and fully functional system. That's their scapegoat, if you would say. Because a complete and fully functional system, right now that's a complete and fully functional system. May not be what the owner wants, but that's the minimum that's required by code. So if they come in and say, okay, now we want a full notification system. Okay, we can do that. You're gonna probably set, or you're gonna have 4 zones on the power supply, 4 circuits. Typically we use 8 amp power supplies. So you're gonna get roughly 2 amps per circuit, but you're gonna load those only 80%. So, and like I said, typically in a hallway, you have to have a horn strobe or a strobe within 15 feet of each exit. In a hallway, you can go 100 feet. I usually go 85 just to keep it consistent. But in open office areas, you can go 50 feet for notification. For strobe wise, it says depending on the candela and the height of the ceiling, you can reduce it, or it's reduced the amount of space, but we typically use 50 feet. Out in a manufacturing area like this, depending on the excuse me, the noise level that's out here, they're not really going to know that there's a fire alarm going on anyways. They'll hear something on the horns. If it's a speaker system, you can design it so that they might be able to hear it, but the intelligibility if there's a lot of noise, so that's why they have the strobes in there, because that's going to be the main notification in noisy areas is your strobe notification. But as a same as the speakers, 50 feet. So you're going to have roughly 50 feet. On center, and that's going to be going, so you're going to go 50 feet here. If you're 20 feet here, then you go up 30 feet this way, and all the way around. If there are poles in between, you can go in between, but I would just typically do the perimeter and flood this area with the horn strobes. Bathrooms, you're going to have strobes in the bathrooms. This is an ADA requirement. If you put notification in, you have to have ADA code. So, let's see here. Mechanical rooms. I would, the air handling units in there. You're gonna put 1 right by the main entrance. Now, hazardous area here. Do you know is this class 1 div 1, class 1 div 2 explosion proof? So you're gonna put basically they do make explosion proof horns and explosion proof strobes, but it's gonna be a separate. They do not make combination devices. So you're going to put, so depending on which level you need, but there's hazardous location and there's explosion proof. It all depends on what group 2 you're looking at. So let's see here. And the data center, we'll pretty much have everything covered. You're going to have your fire alarm panel up in here. And in the front entrance area, you're going to have your annunciator panel. Or if the fire department entrance is not, fire department's not going to come through here, they may want it at the entrance they're coming to, or they may just go to the main fire panel. And then it's gonna be the same up in the data center and classroom area.
Before we leave this one, Matt, do you want to say anything about the beam smoke detectors in the manufacturing floor?
Sure, we can. Typically, yeah, this is, since it's B occupancy, there's nothing that's going to be required. Do we want to save that? No.
I'm
Do
sorry.
you want to save that? No.
Oh,
That's recent. 30. Okay,
you got the rhythm of the system here.
getting it. So if you're looking at, if they're saying, okay, we have to have fully, they want to put more detection in there. Putting smoke detectors up in the ceiling, in the high ceiling, you're not going to get the detection that you want because of stratification. If you're going to put in detectors up here, depending on what the manufacturing is, you're going to have a lot of dust, you're going to have a lot of, your system's just going to get dirty. So now we have two options, where before we used beam detectors as one. And a beam detector is, you just got your transmitter here. This is transmitter and your receiver here. And basically all that's doing is just transmitting a beam down. And that's just monitoring for any, you're looking at, excuse me, smoke, any particles in the air. So it's going to recognize dust versus smoke. And you can go up to 300 feet for the duct smoke detector, or beam detector. And they're getting, the technology is actually advancing more. So instead of going to beam detectors, they have cameras, which monitor, which can do a flame detector. So you can take a camera and it'll notice the smallest flame before a beam detector ever will get the smoke. It's quite interesting, the technology that they're coming up with. So the options that you can do is, like you said, you got the beam detector here, and I would have put at least 3 in here, because as you're coming down, you're going to lose certain areas, and you want to get full coverage, so you want to overlap them.
Those are extended receivers.
Yep. Transmit and receive, yep. It's just a single beam. We have a lot of problems in here with beam detectors. If there's skylights up here, as the sun comes across, you're going to get reflections off the lights, which can interfere with the particles, the way it's bouncing off of all the particles in the air. Dust can be a big problem. Other options that you can do is, we talked about before, the VESDA, a 4-pipe system, which is just a air sampling system, and you can have a maximum of 60 holes per pipe, and you can go 2,500 feet. So, and the way I would, if I was going to put a VESDA system in here, if they wanted smoke detectors, it's a pipe system, starts here, goes up to the ceiling, and we always have it come down, put the end cap down here, probably about 6-7 feet. Why? Because the end cap is where they're going to do the testing at, so you can just go there right at the end and spray the pipe instead of going all the way up to the top. And it's for maintenance issues, it's a lot easier, because the system is going to tell you when the pipes are getting dirty, and you just blow the air out. You replace the filter, pipes are still good, and they're done. Whether the maintenance crew wants to do it themselves or they hire us to do the service. So.
Matt, inside the pipe, do they have a compressor or a fan that pulls the air, or just natural?
Yeah, in a VESTA system, it's the main controller.
So it has a fan that's constantly circulating the air through these pipes.
It's constantly
And sampling
sampling the air.
Okay, so there's an air movement.
Yep.
Okay.
And it can, with the VESTA systems, I have to get a PowerPoint that I can send over, you can show, but it's got 7 different levels of detection. So you got your pre-alarm, you got your trouble, you got your yellow lights, then it gets up into the red lights, alarm 1, alarm 2, alarm 3, and you can have it, and these are parts per million that they're sensing. And you can have it alarm at any point. we have a lot of Bethesda systems and data centers where they call us out, and they were just so pissed off because it kept going off, and it's an alarm. And we walk in and go, that's because there's a fire somewhere. And he goes, there's no fire here. And you go, okay, well, let's take a look. Opened up one of the boards, a tiny circuit had fried. And it was sitting there, and it was smoldering, and he goes, okay, sold. So, I mean, they can detect the very smallest, minimal amount of fire.
They detect different types of gases too as well, like carbon monoxide.
You can, they do have devices that you can put on the system to monitor CO or depending on what they have. Another part of the fire alarm system, I guess you would say, is the gas detection systems. If in the hazard areas, or if they have any chemical plant, chemical processing, we do have the ammonia, the battery. We'll detect all that, and that can report back to the fire alarm system. So, if you're coming into an existing building where there are existing notification devices, one of the things to look for is you have to make sure that all the devices are synchronizable. APA code requires that if you have notification devices, they all have to sync at the same rate due to it can send people into shock who have can't think of it right now. Seizures. Yeah. So it can send them into seizures, and due to the abnormal flashing, so everything has to be synchronized.
So they flash at the same time instead of
Same time, same rate, everything. So it's like these devices here. These devices are not synchronizable, so if we come into a building, these get replaced right away. Let's see what those old ones are. Let's see if there's anything else I'm missing. I don't think so, but pull stations are not required by code anymore. So if there was no sprinkler system in this building, you're going to have a pull station at each exit and on each level. So it'd be on the second level of the stairwells. If this was a high-rise building, you're looking at smoke detection in each stairwell for stairwell exhaust, stairwell pressurization, but that gets into a whole different sequence, and you got a sequence of operations. You got to design the system, opening and closing dampers as we go. One thing to note: any fire smoke dampers that come up through the mechanical have to be controlled by the fire alarm system. So that's either putting a duct smoke detector on it and a control module and a rib relay on each fire smoke damper. Other than that, we talked about the security system. If they have a locked door, say for here, and there is a fire alarm system, if this is a path of egress, we would have a control module, drop the power, they have to be fail secure, so that we can get through and shut off the power to those doors so they can get through the egress. They might have door holders here. You have to have smoke detectors depending on if it's more than 24 inches down from the ceiling, you'd have to have a smoke detector on each side. If it's under 18, you just have to have it on one side. So you're going to have a smoke detector that's going to control that door. It's not going to go into alarm. It's just going to be supervisory because it's for that function only. It's door release only. And you're going to have a control module on each door holder. I don't think if there's anything else. I think that's about it. You're gonna have your dialer, which is a UDACT. You're gonna have two phone lines going to it from next to the control panel, and that's going to dial off to your monitoring station. They have voice over IP DACs now. They have radio DACs, which is it's a digital alarm communicator transmitter. So whether this, and the owner usually provides the phone data.
Using cellular?
I have, as a backup only. There's typically on a universal, on a dialer, you have to have two forms of communication. Cellular has not quite gotten the approval as a primary mode of transmission because of it's not really, gets stuck up in the cloud. You're going through a third-party transmitter. So
Matt, we have an environmental chamber right here in these areas we're showing.
Okay.
Do they have, they're clean rooms basically, and we're powering them. Do you interface anything inside them, or?
in your clean rooms, yeah, you're gonna have, I guess, if you're gonna have a manual spill system, it depends on what kind of chemicals, what they're doing in there. But you're gonna have a strobe in each area, in each room, which is just gonna be mounted on the wall or in the ceiling, depending on where they have space available.
Okay.
Typically, they're gonna be doing process in there. You can make an orange strobe. Typically, it's just gonna be a strobe in there. It's just notifying them because they're gonna be suited up. They're not gonna be able to hear, but they're gonna see the flash. While we're up here, we can talk about a little bit about the technology. This is something new to me. We just opened up a branch or division in our company that handles the phone data. And so typically what you're looking at is at each, you got your DMARC coming in. That's where you're going to run all your phones to. You have drops at in each space. You're probably in the corners, one for every 4 in the main open office areas. Is where you're gonna, and then you're gonna run power and your voice and your data computer connections. Your data center depends on what kind of equipment they have going in there. You're gonna have everything's gonna be rack mounted, and all the equipment's gonna be monitored. We're gonna have that's probably where they're gonna have most of their equipment because it's cooler in there. And you got your splitters and out in the manufacturing, like I said, most things are going to be in conduit, probably run up in the ceiling and down pipes, and you're going to be running or down the columns wherever they're spaced at.
What we're asking them is to do a cable tray that goes right,
Okay, cable tray.
right across all these. So I don't know if that's
Yep,
at least what and then it will go all the way up to
we see that a
the
lot.
location.
And then it drops down above the building or above the either down columns
It
or.
drops and pick up the data lines.
Okay.
And then we say that we have another cable tray that comes out of here and tie to them.
Great.
And then they grab them and tie them to the phone system.
Tied in the main system there.
One way.
Cable trays are really great when you're talking about voice data because you're gonna have, you got bundles of wire going through there, and trying to put that in conduit or run it up and support it is difficult. So cable trays, they come in handy. But one thing to know is that, like the fire alarm system, it cannot be run next to any. If you're running the fire alarm system in the cable tray, it has to be separated from 120 volt 120 volt wire, and that's just a code requirement. It is what are 760, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So is there any separation on fire signaling controls versus PA versus phone or anything like that?
No, low voltage
Class
is
2 versus class.
Yep. Low voltage is not a big issue. It's the high voltage versus the low voltage. They're getting the frequencies, getting the heat build up and so interference. I think that's it. Unless you guys have any other questions.
We covered most of the low voltage. Any question, guys? They always, in the past, the question comes, and I asked you this one, but I want you to tell the students is, have you guys, have the manufacturers of all these equipments developed a Revit families that you know of? Like if, I know with Revit it comes standard families, but if we go to Silent Night right now, do you know if they have developed the fire alarm family, stroke family, and or you guys haven't done that?
I have not dealt with that.
Okay.
So I
If you
guess.
can, yeah, if you guys the CAD guys, are you using Revit right now?
Well, we have Revit, but currently we're using AutoCAD.
You're using AutoCAD, okay. That's no-
We have the capability to do Revit, but we're looking to, because I believe Revit's going to be the future. AutoCAD is going to be going away for the most part, because everything's going to be Revit. So that's where we're training our guys to do.
Any question for Matt, guys?
You in Richfield or what's the?
Oh, we're based out of Edina. Yeah. And we have a branch in Arizona. We do work worldwide for a lot of our customers. We'll travel like we have people in Vegas right now, India, so we go all over. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, anything comes up, leave a bunch of business cards here. Feel free to give me a call anytime. As long as I'm not with a customer or anybody, I can answer and get back to you. But
Okay, well, thank you, Matt, I wish you the thanks.